Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good morning to you and welcome to All Indiana Politics. I'm Alexis Rogers. Let's begin today with politics and the coronavirus and a head-spinning week of shifts on the virus policies. It started with the CDC's change of course. The agency says it now wants everyone to wear a mask in public, indoor spaces, and even if they're fully vaccinated. But the federal health officials are also trying to stop the rapid spread of the Delta variant of the virus. President Biden is urging state and local governments to use COVID relief money to offer $100 payments to be able to encourage more people to get the vaccine.
Last month, a study showed that over 99% of COVID-19 deaths have been among the unvaccinated. 99%. This is an American tragedy. People are dying and will die who don't have to die.
So what about the restrictions in Marion County? Remember, it's been less than a month since the city removed the last of its virus restrictions. The health department is recommending masks for everyone indoors, but not going as far as issuing a new mandate. IPS has revised its fall policy and will require all students and staff to mask up inside when school resumes. Now, our News 8 team asked Mayor Joe Hogsett if he plans to go to the council to ask for reinstating some of the virus restrictions.
We have not issued a mandate in Indianapolis as of yet. But look, I'm going to be perfectly transparent here. The Delta variant is a very contagious variant, and it's a deadly variant. And we still have a large number of people in Marion County who are not fully vaccinated. And when you have those two things coming together, you're going to see a slight increase. We hope that we don't resurge, but we'll watch it every single day.
And let's welcome in Congressman Larry Bouchon now. Congressman, always good to see you, sir. Thank you for taking some time. We'll start here with what the CDC has been recommending for the past couple of days. I want to point out that you are a doctor. They're now recommending that everyone wear masks, whether they're vaccinated or not. Your thoughts when you heard that recommendation?
Well, I disagree with them. I think there's no scientific evidence to say that people who are vaccinated are going to spread the disease. I think it's just the wrong recommendation. It's anti-vaccine. We're trying to convince people that vaccination is the best way to get out of the pandemic medically, but then you have these recommendations coming out of the CDC. Now, that said, unvaccinated people, I think it is prudent for them to wear optimally an N95 mask or a surgical mask. Cloth masks or the bandanas don't really help you.
Yeah.
But unvaccinated people should not be required to wear masks.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, as you very well know, calling it a political stunt. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think there's some politics involved in it. I mean, and I don't know why. I think, you know, the national narrative on the Delta variant is pretty strong in the media. But medically, I try to look at things from facts, okay? Historically, vaccinated people don't spread the diseases they're vaccinated against. And I think that's the case here. And I also don't like the fact that the federal government is going to mandate across the country a one-size-fits-all. I mean, I think Indiana has leadership, political leadership and medical leadership that can make those decisions. So it's a two-pronged thing. I don't think the federal government should be mandating these things or even recommending them necessarily,
right,
if there's no science behind it. And in this case, again, for vaccinated individuals, there's no proof that they need to wear a mask.
President Biden has also toyed with and talked about possibly demanding that all federal workers be vaccinated. Number one, is that constitutional? And number two, as a physician, is that something that you support?
Well, I think that's a mistake. I think in general, I don't think governments should be mandating that people get a medical procedure if they choose not to. It is still, as you know, a free country. I think it's good to necessarily give recommendations to people based on science, which I don't think the current CDC recommendations are based on. But I'm against governments mandating that people get a medical procedure, whether that's a vaccine or anything else. I do think there are constitutional issues there, but mainly I just think it's just not the American way. It's a free country, and people should be able to take care of themselves and have control of what they get on the medical side.
I want to change the topic here a little bit, move the conversation on here. As you very well know, bipartisan agreement has been reached for infrastructure. Do you foresee yourself supporting this plan?
It depends on what the final version is. I mean, in general, yes, I support a big infrastructure package. The key is how do we pay for it, and what does it cover, and what is considered infrastructure? So, we need broadband, for example, in the area I represent. I think that's a good addition to traditional infrastructure like roads, bridges, and other things. But I want to see the final version. I think, the Democrats in the House, at least, trying to add all kinds of other things that are not really infrastructure to these type of bills. But in general, yes, if it's properly paid for, we need infrastructure in our country badly. And I think the federal government has a role.
You saw the first day of the hearings for what happened on January 6th. Your thoughts on what came out of that?
Well, I think, first of all, it's unfortunate Speaker Pelosi didn't allow Republicans to appoint the people they want to the committee. That's the first time in the history of the House of Representatives that's happened, that a select committee majority has not allowed the minority to appoint the people they want. So that at the outset, including our own Indiana's Jim Banks, was denied participation. So I think what that does is unfortunately politicizes the issue some.
Yeah.
Look, there were legitimate issues to be investigated. There's 2 Senate committees that have done it already. We need to know, honestly, why there was security lapses that day and why we weren't properly prepared. And I think if we can look towards the future and say, well, how do we prevent these things going forward? That's what we really want to know. So we'll find out. I think we know who did it and we know why. I just think that's politics. I want to know, how come we had security lapses? How can we not make that mistake again? And what do we do going forward?
So it sounds like you support having this hearing, unlike Jim Banks, who basically.
Well, I mean, I think now that the Republicans have been denied participation for the people that they want to appoint to the committee, I agree with Leader McCarthy that we should not participate under the current political circumstance that the Speaker has created. There was investigations again in the Senate in 2 committees, and I do think we need to know the answers. I just think it's unfortunate that the Speaker has chosen to play politics with it and not really look at the answers. For example, she's the Speaker of the House. What did she know? What were her security briefs? Leader McCarthy in the Republican side, what did he know? Why didn't the Sergeant at Arms who controls security in the House advise the Speaker that we needed more security? How come they denied the National Guard from coming to the Capitol that day? All of those things are things we need to know answers to. Yeah. I just think when you inject the politics in it, that's a mistake.
One more question for you, Congressman Bouchon, and again, I appreciate you taking some time for us.
Sure.
The border is something that's very, very interesting and something that you obviously focus on. Yeah. What needs to be done down there?
Well, a multitude of things. First of all, let me just say, this has been a long-standing problem for decades. This is not a new issue. How do we secure our southern border? How do we have fair legal immigration, and how do we make sure that at whatever we do, it's humanitarian in nature? So let me just say that at the outset. But I do think the Biden administration needs to backtrack and go back to some of the policies that President Trump had. I think, when we look at, for example, having people that want asylum in the United States stay in Mexico, because first of all, they should be requesting asylum in Mexico before the United States, because that's a sovereign country. So there's things like that. I think right now it's being ignored, honestly, by the administration. And I think that's a mistake. I think the other thing I'm concerned about medically, nobody's being tested for COVID. I've been down there. They're testing symptomatic people. Everybody else is not being tested, and they're entering the United States by the tens of thousands. So it's a medical issue also.
Yeah.
But ultimately, let me just finish on this. Congress needs to act. We need to reform our legal immigration system. We need to address situations like DACA and other things, and find bipartisan solutions to solve this problem for the American people. Until we do that, we're going to continue to have problems at our border. But right now, the Biden administration is basically ignoring the situation and aren't doing anything to stop the people from coming. I don't blame the people from coming. I would come to the United States also.
Sure. Yeah.
We're all immigrants.
Yeah.
But we have to have sovereign laws, and we have to have things that we do to make sure it's done legally.
Congressman Larry Bouchon, always good to see you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Coming up, Indiana's record on waiting unemployment repayments. Our IT mate digs into the startling numbers and takes questions directly to Governor Holcomb. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics. We turn our attention again to the unemployment crisis right here in Indiana. You know our IT mate has been hounding state officials for answers and solutions for thousands of Hoosier families. The state touted its waiver process to allow people to avoid repaying some unemployment benefits. So IT mate started digging into those numbers on just how often it's been used. Here's IT 8's Richard Essex.
We have been poring over dozens of federal reports from the United States Department of Labor. And from those reports, we have gleaned that the state is trying to recover almost $100 million in unemployment benefits that were overpaid just last year. That doesn't include $13 million that was paid this year. We have had hundreds of complaints sent to IT-Mate about the tactics used by the Indiana Department of Workforce Development to recover unemployment overpayments. Paul Dowdy of Indianapolis lost his job when the state shut down. He was able to collect unemployment, and now the state wants the money back.
In excess of 14,000. I almost want to say 17,000, but definitely in excess of 14,000.
The United States Department of Labor data indicates that Indiana has recovered $26 million so far. What the data doesn't show is exactly how many people have been forced to pay the money back. Compared to surrounding states, Indiana is one of the most aggressive collectors of overpaid unemployment insurance. The state of Indiana does have a waiver program, but the federal report shows that Indiana has not waived a single dollar of overpayments. Dowdy says the waiver and appeal process is not user-friendly.
I just regret having to take the money, especially getting bills telling me that there'll be federal agencies pursuing me for the money if I don't pay it.
The numbers provided by the United States Department of Labor do not include all unemployment benefit program numbers, so the actual dollar amounts could be much higher. And fraud does play a part in the overpayment numbers. The United States Department of Labor estimates that Indiana paid out just under 5% to fraudulent claims. At the State House, Richard Essex, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
Richard, thank you. Should the state be doing more to help those families facing repayment demands? We took that question directly to Governor Eric Holcomb.
We have thousands of Hoosiers who are being asked to repay tens of thousands of dollars who say, I was eligible for benefits, I got everything done on time, and yet I've got a bill for $10,000 on my desk. I mean, people can't afford to have that kind of money. And they feel like they're not getting the answers that they want from the DWD. So well,
they might not be getting the answer they want. You're correct.
And what are you doing?
You are correct. They might not be getting the answer, but we have to go through these things one by one by one. And when I see hundreds, as reported, of folks who maybe haven't applied for the waiver, if they were overpaid and they're unhappy, they should. However, if they're not eligible, then they're not eligible.
Coming up, the infrastructure bill and the fight over unemployment. Our political experts are ready to tackle those next on All Indiana Politics. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in Abdul Hakim Shabazz, publisher of IndyPolitics.org, and Drew Anderson, Communications Director for the Indiana Democratic Party. Both of you, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
Of course. Hey, let's start with the coronavirus. New CDC recommendations is that everyone is being asked to wear masks indoors. Drew, is this a good idea? And will there be a mandate, do you think?
Well, first off, President Biden said yesterday that personal freedom comes with responsibility. And that responsibility means that we have to look after one another. And Indiana Democrats have asked all leaders across state to step up and call on Hoosiers to get vaccinated because we need to be able to make sure to fight this virus. And so if that means wearing masks indoors to prevent the spread of COVID, let's do it. And it's because CDC report yesterday even said that vaccinated folks have been found to spread this Delta variant just like unvaccinated folks. So let's all come together and put this pandemic behind us.
And do you think there's going to be a mandate?
I'll leave that up to the federal government to say, but I will say that businesses are stepping up and asking their employees to get vaccinated. making that a requirement. And at the end of the day, if businesses are stepping up, then that means that the rest of the country needs to.
Abdul, even the state health department is now strongly encouraging everyone to wear a mask. Do you agree?
I believe if you're not going to get vaccinated, you should definitely wear a mask. I'm opposed to a mask mandate from the federal level, from a mandate level. But I do believe it should be voluntary, and I keep my mask in my car in case I go into a business that requires someone to wear a mask. But I think the bigger issue is how do we reach those folks who aren't necessarily the anti-vax crowd? They're not the issue. The issue is folks who are concerned, about the virus, about the vaccination. You need to talk to them individually, not belittle them, as Dr. Box and Dr. Weaver recommended during a news conference a couple weeks ago. Talk to them, talk to their doctors, and convince them sort of one-on-one. And I think that's where the nature of this conversation has changed. And mandates are going to, if someone's not wearing a mask before, in the middle of all this, they're not going to be wearing a mask now. Let's just be honest with each other.
This has been a big kitchen table conversation, especially with the back and forth. Another big kitchen table conversation is the infrastructure bill. We saw some movement on infrastructure last week. Drew, will Democrats get enough Republican support to pass a bill?
Well, we had 17 Republicans just this week, vote for the first steps to get this parts of the American Jobs Plan passed. And that is the promise that Joe Biden made to Americans, that he would deliver and that he would bring everyone together to get stuff done. And that's what's happening. Now it's up to folks on the House side to get the rest of these elements passed through the jobs plan. And it's my hope, and it's Democrats' hope, that the House Republicans, including some of our friends here in Indiana, put down their partisanship and actually get this done, because that's broadband, that's roads and bridges, that's even childcare, and needs to happen.
Abdul, do you think there will be agreement? So much talk has been about how will this get paid for?
I think the bigger issue in the infrastructure bill, which Drew's right, 17 Republicans supported. I think the bigger issue in the infrastructure bill is whether it gets out of the House, and whether Nancy Pelosi even calls it up for a vote, because she wants the president's sort of human infrastructure bill to pass on the vote. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be holding up infrastructure. It's not the Senate, because Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer seem to be working their way through the process. It's going to be Speaker Pelosi, whether she allows the infrastructure bill to actually come up for a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about unemployment now, and the state demanding that some people repay thousands of dollars in benefits they originally qualified for, while other states are waiving those payments. We've been doing so much in-depth work on this here at Wish TV. Abdul, should the state just waive all of these reported overpayments?
I don't think so, because it's got like $100 million in excess payments. I believe that's out there. I believe it should be done one by one, in a sense, to make sure that that people who got their benefits actually deserve to get their benefits, not sort of an automatic waiver, because you could have some other issues in there. What I do think, though, is the state should work as quickly as humanly possible to make sure that folks who are entitled to their benefits get their benefits, and folks who don't get their benefits, who aren't entitled to them, don't get them. Because remember, if we give benefits to someone who's not entitled to them, we're taking away benefits from someone who actually is.
Mm-hmm. Drew, is the state doing enough to help the unemployed? We've gotten a lot of complaints.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's Wish's work that's helped expose this error from the state. And at the end of the day, Hoosier workers, especially gig and temp workers, should not be penalized for this. And it exposes a bigger problem, which is our workers are getting underpaid. We're in a work for more for less economy. And it's because Governor Holcomb and Republicans won't work with Democrats to raise wages. And that's the root of the problem. We need to raise our wages for our workers in order for workers to make ends meet. And until that happens, we're going to continue to see Hoosier struggle across the state.
And quickly, before I let you all go, January 6th Select Committee held their first hearing this week. Congressman Larry Bouchon earlier said that Republicans shouldn't take part in the committee since Speaker Nancy Pelosi booted 2 of the Republican picks off of the panel. Abdul, should there be a Republican boycott of this?
I don't think so at the end of the day, and Larry's a good friend. I like him personally. Been known Larry for years since he got elected to Congress. I'm going to respectfully disagree, because Republicans did have an opportunity to sort of shape that committee, and they didn't take advantage of it, so now we are where we are.
Mm-hmm. And can I add in there, to go off Abdul's point, not only did they have a chance to vote for an independent commission, but also a lot of Republicans in the House voted to overturn the election results. And they encouraged people to show up on January 6th. And so if there's anyone that's playing partisan games here, it's that side.
Drew, Abdul, thank you so much for spending time with us. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.